LeBron was probably the best leader, young leader I've seen. And I was kind of jealous of him because he got to do stuff I could never do. Like, coach would be like, hey, man, we practicing the 10. LeBron would be like, no, we practicing 12. All right, practice the 12. And I was like, God damn, like, he get to bring his family members on the plane and people on the plane. So I was like, I've been a man for a long time. I never really had this much power. So,
what did you think about playing with LeBron was going to be like? And then what was it like when you actually got there?
I wish I would have met 2 years earlier.
Shaquille O'Neal just went nuclear on LeBron James and Kevin Durant, and nobody saw it coming. What began as a casual back and forth quickly spiraled into one of the most jaw-dropping moments in modern basketball discourse. And it all came down to one word: disrespect. The Big Diesel didn't hold back. He unloaded on two of the defining superstars of this era, and the shockwaves are still rippling through the NBA world. This wasn't a lazy hot take or playful trash talk. This was personal. And when Shaq finally said what he'd been holding back, the room went silent.
First of all, I'm not a hater.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not a hater. This is how I think. And you are in this category. If they couldn't play with us, they can't play with us. I'm not going to give them all the greatness status yet. That's how I look at it. Could they have played with us? Because like when I came in, they always say, oh, you couldn't have played like this with Ewing and Robinson and all that. So then when I came in and I played with them and I dominated them, and then,
Look, everyone knows Shaq, the four-time NBA champion, three-time finals MVP, the most dominant force the paint has ever seen. Shaquille O'Neal isn't just a basketball legend. He's an icon who redefined what unstoppable looks like. From shattered backboards to championship runs that sealed his place in history, Shaq has always been larger than life, on and off the court. And that's the key part. Shaq has never been the type to stay quiet. Whether it's on Inside the NBA, his podcast, or social media, the big Aristotle always has an opinion, and he's never been shy about sharing it. Over the years, he's weighed in on the modern game with a mix of praise and criticism. He's traded playful jabs with LeBron James and Kevin Durant before, but it was always framed as competitive banter between legends. Or so it seemed. Because in early 2025, something changed. The tone shifted. What used to feel playful suddenly turned sharper, more personal. And what followed wasn't just another recycled GOAT debate. It was a full-blown confrontation that sent shockwaves through the basketball world and forced fans to pick sides. Shaq has always shown respect for LeBron, calling him one of the greatest ever. Same with KD, acknowledging his scoring brilliance and place in NBA history. But to Shaq, respect is a two-way street. And when it started to feel one-sided, that's when things reached a breaking point. The stage was set. The tension was real. And when Shaq finally snapped, nobody saw the explosion coming.
Yeah, I said the 90s and it was way harder than this. You guys, this is like kind of soft. Am I lying? Am I crazy? I'm not a basketball expert.
It's soft. It's soft, and I've said this a million times. It's soft because everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Of all of your opinions, that take about it's all three-point shooting has spread for months. And I feel like so much so that Commissioner Adam Silver even had to address.
So what actually set Shaq off? It wasn't one moment, it was a slow burn. A buildup of comments, narratives, and subtle digs that chipped away at his patience over time. If you follow basketball at all, you've seen it everywhere. On social media, on podcasts, on debate shows. The same talking point keeps coming up. The modern NBA is more skilled, more athletic, and flat out better than the era Shaq dominated. The argument sounds familiar. Today's players shoot threes, handle the ball like guards, and play at a pace that supposedly would overwhelm old-school big men. And sure, the game has evolved, no one denies that. But here's where Shaq felt the line was crossed. Some of these conversations didn't just praise the modern game, they dismissed the past. The implication became that players like Shaq wouldn't even survive today. That he'd be played off the floor because he couldn't switch on the perimeter or stretch the defense with a three-point shot. That Shaq's heard that noise before. He's laughed it off, fired back with jokes, and pointed to his rings as a mic drop. But this time felt different. When comments from LeBron James and Kevin Durant started circulating, comments that seemed to downplay the difficulty of past eras, that's when it stopped being abstract and became personal. According to sources close to both camps, a recent private conversation, not yet blown up by mainstream media, included LeBron suggesting the league is harder now than it's ever been, and that championships today carry more weight because of the competition. KD, never one to shy away from stirring the pot, reportedly backed it up, adding that earlier eras benefited from a league that simply wasn't as deep with talent. Were they calling out Shaq by name? Not directly. But Shaq heard the message loud and clear. And when you've got 4 championship rings and spent a decade terrorizing the league, hearing that your accomplishments somehow matter less feels like a slap in the face. That's when the frustration started leaking out. People close to Shaq noticed he got noticeably sharper whenever the topic came up. Cryptic Instagram posts started appearing. Throwback highlights with captions like, "They don't make them like they used to." The subliminals were flying. The warning signs were there. But what nobody realized was that Shaq wasn't done laughing it off. Not this time. He wasn't about to let it slide quietly. And when he finally decided to respond, he didn't just clap back. He detonated the entire conversation.
You are a little bit of a hater of today's players. Some of that was in jest. I do want to get into one thing on that in a second, but there's a couple guys I think that you've been pretty consistent calling out. One is Dwight. I'm just curious, like, why? Why Dwight? Like, what?
And what's your definition of calling out?
I just feel like there are certain times where
It happened live. No edits. No PR team. No one stepping in to slow him down. Just Shaq, raw and unfiltered. During a recent appearance where he was breaking down the current state of the NBA, the conversation drifted, as it always does, into the GOAT debate. Then someone mentioned the idea that today's players are more skilled and face tougher competition than the legends of the past. That's when everything changed. Shaq's demeanor shifted instantly. The smile disappeared. His eyes locked in. The playful giant was gone. This was a man who'd heard enough. "Let me tell you something," Shaq said, his voice dropping into that serious tone that tells you he's dead serious. "I've been hearing a lot of talk lately. A lot of people saying the game is so much harder now. That we had it easy back then." He paused, shaking his head. "And I'm sitting here thinking, are y'all really serious right now?" He leaned forward, and suddenly the room felt smaller. "I've got nothing but respect for LeBron and KD," he continued. "What they've done is incredible. But don't get it twisted. Don't sit there and act like what we did doesn't count. Don't act like those championships were handed to us. The battles we fought, the punishment we took, the blood we spilled on that court, that wasn't easy." The room went dead quiet. This wasn't the joking Shaq fans were used to. This was someone defending his name. "You want to talk about competition?" he said. "I went through Tim Duncan year after year. I battled Hakeem. I faced David Robinson. I dealt with Ewing, Mourning, Mutombo, Hall of Famers, night after night. Every game was war." Then he delivered the line that hit hardest. "And we didn't get to build super teams. We didn't hop around picking the perfect situation. We earned every ring." His voice rose as the emotion poured out. "So when I hear people say the league is tougher now or that your championships mean more, that's disrespectful. That's disrespectful to everyone who came before you. To the legends who built this game so y'all could even have these opportunities." But Shaq still wasn't finished. "And another thing, don't talk to me about skill," he said. "I was skilled. 7'1", over 300 pounds, moving like a guard. I passed. I had footwork. I had touch. Just because I didn't shoot threes doesn't mean I wasn't skilled." He shook his head one last time. "The game was different. We played different. But don't you ever say we weren't great." And just like that, Shaq didn't just defend his era. He drew a line in the sand. The clip spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was everywhere. Basketball Twitter went into meltdown mode. Sports networks cut into regular programming. Analysts rushed to studios. And suddenly, the entire NBA world was arguing about one thing. Shaq had drawn a line in the sand. And now, everyone was waiting to see how LeBron James and Kevin Durant would respond. The reaction was instant and overwhelming. Every platform, every comment section, every group chat. You couldn't escape it. Shaq's words hit a nerve, and the debate exploded into something much bigger than a soundbite. But what made it even louder was the silence. LeBron James, normally quick to post, quick to engage, disappeared. No tweets. No Instagram stories. No cryptic quotes. Nothing. And for a player whose voice has defined an era, that silence felt deafening. Was he ignoring it? Letting it cool off? Or did Shaq's comments actually land? According to insiders close to LeBron, frustration was definitely there, but so was restraint. One source claimed LeBron felt his words had been taken out of context, that he never intended to disrespect the legends who came before him. But without a public response, fans filled in the gaps themselves. Kevin Durant, though? KD stayed true to form. He didn't fire back directly. He didn't tag Shaq. He didn't post a statement. Instead, he liked a tweet that said, "Old heads always get emotional when you talk about how good the league is now. Appreciate greatness in every era and move on." That was all it took. Screenshots spread instantly. The fire grew hotter. Some fans called KD petty. Others said he was just speaking facts. Either way, the tension escalated. Then the legend stepped in. Charles Barkley didn't hesitate. On Inside the NBA, he backed Shaq without blinking. "He's right," Barkley said. "These young guys gotta respect what we did. We didn't have social media to complain on. We just played." Magic Johnson took a softer approach, tweeting that every era has its own challenges and that greatness should be celebrated across generations. Calm words, but they came too late. The damage was already done. The basketball world was officially split. Hashtag Team Shaq began trending, with fans posting throwback clips of broken backboards, unstoppable post moves, and finals performances that reminded everyone just how dominant he really was. On the other side, hashtag Team LeBron and hashtag Team KD flooded timelines with stats, longevity, versatility, efficiency, adaptability. Two sides. Two philosophies. This wasn't just debate anymore. It was a generational war. Old school versus new school. Rings versus numbers. Physical dominance versus skill and spacing. And hovering over it all was one central question. Was Shaq right, or was he just another legend struggling to accept that the game has moved on? But here's what people were missing. This wasn't about ego. It wasn't about hot takes or social media clout. This was about legacy. About respect. About how history remembers greatness. From Shaq's point of view, he's watching his era get quietly diminished. Every time someone says the league is harder now, what he hears is, "What you did mattered less." And when you're someone who gave everything to the game, played through pain, carried franchises, redefined your position, hearing that cuts deep. Shaq isn't saying today's NBA is weak. He's saying the past deserves respect. And honestly, that's not an unreasonable hill to stand on. Imagine dedicating your life to being great, reaching the top, changing the game forever, only to be told it was easier because you didn't shoot threes. That's the real fight here, and it's far from over. But there is another side to this story, and it deserves to be heard. LeBron James and Kevin Durant aren't out here trying to erase history. They're speaking from the reality of the era they're playing in, an NBA that's faster, more spread out, more skilled across every position, and relentlessly demanding from top to bottom. When they talk about today's game being harder, it isn't a shot at the past. It's a reflection of how the challenges have changed. Defenses are more complex. Schemes are built to take away your strengths. Every player on the floor can shoot, pass, and switch. And on top of all that, the pressure never shuts off. Social media scrutiny follows players 24/7. Every bad game goes viral. Every mistake becomes a headline. So when LeBron says the modern game is harder, he's not saying Shaq wasn't dominant. He's saying dominance looks different now. The evolution of basketball means centers can't just live in the paint anymore. Players are expected to do everything: shoot from deep, handle the ball, defend multiple positions, and make instant decisions in space. The margin for error is thinner than ever. And KD? KD has always believed in his greatness. He's never been shy about it. When he defends today's league, he's defending his era and his legacy. His message is simple: don't discredit what we're doing just because it doesn't look like the past. So where's the truth? It's right in the middle. Every era has its own monsters. Shaq dominated his time in a way we may never see again. LeBron has sustained elite excellence for over 2 decades, something unheard of in NBA history. Kevin Durant's scoring ability transcends eras entirely. Put him anywhere, anytime, and he gets buckets. The real problem isn't the players. It's the conversation around them. The hot takes. The clickbait. The constant need to rank, compare, and tear one legend down just to elevate another. That's where things get toxic. And that's when Shaq finally clarified something that didn't get nearly enough attention. In a follow-up comment, Shaq said, "I'm not mad at LeBron or KD as people. I'm mad at the narrative. I'm mad that fans and media are trying to rewrite history like we didn't matter. That's what I won't stand for." And there it is. This was never really personal. This was about Shaq defending his era, his peers, his battles, and his place in the story of basketball. It was about making sure that when the history books are written, his generation doesn't get minimized or brushed aside. But has the damage already been done? As of now, LeBron still hasn't made a public statement directly addressing Shaq's comments. According to sources, he's focused on the season, locked in on winning, and trying not to let outside noise derail what matters most. But privately? there's disappointment. LeBron believed there was mutual respect. And this public call-out felt unnecessary, maybe even a betrayal. Kevin Durant, meanwhile, appears unfazed. He's still posting, still engaging, still being KD. But anyone who's followed his career knows one thing: he never forgets. Whether it comes out in a tweet, a podcast appearance, or simply through dominance on the court, don't be surprised if he addresses this on his own terms. Shaq, for his part, isn't backing down. No apology. No backtracking. And from his perspective, why should he? He believes he spoke the truth. He stood up for his legacy and for an entire generation that feels increasingly overlooked. So now the bigger question looms: can these relationships be repaired? Shaq and LeBron have always been cordial, even if they weren't close. Does this change things permanently? And how will future players interpret this moment? As a reminder to respect the past, or as a legend struggling to accept the game's evolution? The truth is, this kind of tension was inevitable. It's happened before. Magic and Bird watching Jordan rise. Jordan watching Kobe and LeBron chase his shadow. And now Shaq's generation watching the modern superstars redefine greatness. What's different now is the platform. Social media magnifies everything. A comment that might have stayed private 20 years ago now gets dissected by millions in minutes. The audience is bigger. The stakes feel higher, and just when it feels like the dust might settle, one question hangs in the air. What if this isn't the end? What if LeBron or KD responds directly? What if more legends start picking sides? What if this turns into a full-blown generational war? Because one thing is clear: this conversation isn't going anywhere. Shaquille O'Neal didn't just criticize LeBron James and Kevin Durant. He challenged the entire narrative about greatness, respect, and legacy. And whether you agree with him or not, his passion reminds us why these debates exist in the first place. Basketball isn't just stats and rings. It's history. It's pride. It's generations passing the torch. So who's really wrong here? Shaq for speaking his mind? Or LeBron and KD for pushing back against the past? If you're riding with Shaq, drop a fire in the comments. If you're team LeBron and KD, tell us why. And don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from finished.